Welcome to today's episode of the Mindset Mentor Podcast. I am your host, Rob Dial. If you have not yet done so, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss another podcast episode. And if you're out there, you love this podcast, you want some extra tips and tricks to improve yourself, I created a brand new free lesson for you that is a video lesson on how to journal, as well as 30 free journaling prompts to help you get started in your journaling process. If you want that, go to mindsetmentorjournal.com. Once again, mindsetmentorjournal.com. You can download it absolutely free. Today, we're going to be talking about how to create ultimate freedom in your life. For those of you that might work for a company, or you might have your own company, how do we create more freedom? How do you break free from the rat race? How do you leave your 9 to 5? How do you do something that truly fulfills you? We're going to talk about how to create the ultimate freedom that you want in your life. And we're going to talk about how to break free from the system, break free from the normal life, break free from the rat race. And you got to start thinking outside of the box and start questioning everything. You know, if you look at everything, the way that society is set up, I would recommend questioning all of it. One day I realized that society was set up by a bunch of people that were no smarter than I was, but I was just following along blindly. And 2 days ago, my chiropractor was at my house and we were talking about how he went to college and, you know, he had to go to college and then he had to go to school to be a chiropractor, all this stuff. And he said to me, he goes, well, you got lucky because you just dodged all of it. And I was like, yeah, I did get lucky. I was lucky though, because my mom never set up scholarships for me. She never said, hey, listen, I'm going to pay for all of your college. She never said, hey, I'm going to set up all of your loans. She said, hey, do it all on your own. If you need loans, go get your loans. If you need scholarships, go get your scholarships. If you need to pay for it, pay for it. Which to some of you might be like, oh my gosh, well, she didn't help you at all. Well, maybe you could look at it that way. Or another way you could look at it is that she gave me full reins of what I wanted to do with my life very early on. And for me, I started looking at how much money I was paying out of pocket for school and applying for Fannie Mae and all of this stuff. And I was like, this doesn't equate. Like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm adding up, I'm a numbers person, so I'm adding up how much college is going to cost me. I'm finding how much money I'm going to be making directly out of college. And I'm like, I might never pay these off. And so I got lucky in the fact that I had to do this all on my own. And I became very aware a couple years in of like, yep, this isn't for me. This isn't what I want to do. And if I get a job, I have to work for someone else and like Monday through Friday and like 9 to 5 and all of that stuff. And so when you look at the rat race, as it's called, you look at the Monday through Friday, you look at 9 to 5. Have you ever just sat back and asked yourself, where did that come from? Have you ever thought that to yourself? Where did the 9 to 5 come from? Most people don't realize it actually came from and was developed by Henry Ford. Henry Ford, who created Ford, and wanted a whole bunch of really good workers, really good people to work in his factories. And what happened was he developed a system with the educational base of like, people should be working 9 to 5. They should be working Monday through Friday. And what happened was he created a system. He helped the school system create a system to create really good workers, which is fine if you want to be a worker. But if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably listening to this podcast because you feel like there's something else more for you out there. And so what do? We just go for it. We just go, okay, I'll just do this thing. And I did this thing for a few years and I was like, this isn't for me. This isn't what I want to do. You know, if you go to work for someone else and you work for somebody, just take a Tuesday off one time. Like I take a Tuesday off and go to a park. Go to your most popular park that's in your city. Go to Whole Foods, go to the grocery store. There's people everywhere. And I remember my last job that I had before I left, I remember I had to take the day off because I had to, first off, go to my physical therapist. And then after my physical therapist, I had to go to the dentist. And I remember driving around and seeing people everywhere and thinking to myself, what the hell do these people do? Like, somehow these people are paying their bills. What do they do to make money? How do they make money? And the thing that's beautiful about living right now in this moment of listening to this podcast is there's ways to make money all around you. So if the thing that's holding you back from leaving the rat race is that you have bills to pay, you have a mortgage, you have a family to pay for, I completely understand it. I'm not saying that you can just leave today and be completely fine, but what I'm saying is, have you ever started looking to see what else there is? Have you stopped being so married to the rat race and started looking to see if there were some mistresses of ways to make money out there? Is there ways that you could start a side hustle? Is there something that really interests you? I always say, if you start looking online of ways to make money, there's a million ways to make $1 million. And even if you don't make $1 million, if you make $60,000 a year right now, there is 10 million ways that you can figure out a way to make $60,000 and still be able to pay your bills and live an amazing life. And freedom is a really interesting thing too, because most people want freedom, but they don't prioritize their freedom. It's pretty crazy because most people want to be free, but they don't prioritize their freedom. And the reason why I can tell you that most people want freedom is because you can look at a 2-year-old. A 2-year-old wants to do what they want to do. They want to do what they want, when they want, whatever it is. So you know that freedom of being free in self-expression and doing what we want to do is built into the human system. People will prioritize making money, but they will not prioritize finding work to be more free. You want to know a little secret? I'm going to give it to you. You don't want to make money. You don't. I know people that are worth over $4 billion. He doesn't want to just be worth $4 billion. He wasn't going on the road to just make money. No, his goal was the same goal as yours. Your goal is to make more freedom in your life. Sure, you can make money. You can buy cool things. You can buy a house. You could buy multiple houses. You can buy a house. You can buy trips. You could do all of that stuff. But what you're really looking for is more freedom. And one realization that I have a friend who's a real estate investor. He actually hit me up this morning and he's like, hey man, I've got this really good deal, this place that you could buy. It's a commercial property and all this stuff. And I texted him back and I was like, honestly, man, I'm good. I'm good where I am. I've realized that the more stuff I buy, the more things that I own, multiple houses, all of, different things, everything that I buy occupies a little bit of space in my brain. And it's a little bit of worry. It's a little bit of what happens if I have, this extra house and then something changes. And we can want to buy those things, but most people don't realize that buying a bigger house means a lot more frustration. Buying a mansion is a freaking headache with all of the stuff you got to do to keep it up and the people that got to come clean it and the maintenance that's required of it. Because if you've ever owned a house, stuff just breaks in houses, right? You know what I'm talking about. Where it's like, damn it, another thing just broke. Like literally this week, I've had someone come over and fix my plumbing and fix my garage door that broke, right? It's just more shit that you own to break. Imagine if you have 3 houses, 4 houses. So people think they want like money and cars and all of those things. But although you do want those things, what you actually want is just the freedom that having money gives you. That's the thing that people really, truly want. Hey, if you've been worrying about a health problem that you have, you almost always resort to texting your group chat to get your friends' opinions. But let's be honest, you're not going to get the best advice from your friends, but you can get it from a doctor on ZocDoc. ZocDoc is the only free app that lets you find and book doctors who are patient-reviewed, take your insurance, and treat almost every condition under the sun. No more doctor roulette or scouring the internet for questionable reviews. With ZocDoc, you have a trusted guide to connect you to your favorite doctor that you haven't met yet. Millions of people use ZocDoc's free app, I'm actually one of them, to find and book a doctor in their neighborhood who is patient-reviewed and fits their needs and scheduled just right. So go to ZocDoc.com/dial and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then book a top-rated doctor today. Many are available within 24 hours. That's ZocDoc.com/dial, ZocDoc.com/dial. Freedom is what we're searching for. Success means something different to every single person, but success to me, what it means to me, and what I found it means to a lot of other people, is just the freedom to do what you want, when you want, with who you want. That's it. Sure, you want to make money. You do. You want some cool stuff, but after you buy a bunch of cool things, you're like, doesn't really do, I'm not any happier. That's for sure. When you buy more stuff, you have more things to worry about, you actually become less happy. So sure, you want to make money, but actually what you want is the freedom to decide to take a weekend trip with your friends and not have to worry about paying rent, right? Sure, you want to make money, but what you really want is the freedom from the burden of worrying about money. That's really what you want. You want just, that is what you want. That feeling of just, okay, I'm safe. I'm taken care of. I can go take a trip with my friends. I can take a day off. I can buy this thing if I want to. And you want to know a really interesting secret about freedom that I've never heard somebody say before, but I've come to realize in my own life? Freedom comes from discipline. Now you might be like, those two things don't make sense together. Discipline feels like lack of freedom. Most people think freedom is the exact opposite of discipline. Discipline seems restrictive. To discipline, I have to have self-discipline and do this thing and work from this time to this time and do this thing to this thing. But the freedom is in the discipline and the structure. And there's a couple different ways. And I want to really hopefully change your mindset around freedom and change your mindset around discipline and structure. Discipline and structure creates freedom in your life in a couple different ways. It creates freedom later on down in the road for you, where if you're disciplined now and you have structure now, you will have way more freedom to do things that you might not be able to do if you weren't more disciplined. It comes back to the phrase, one of my very first mentors used to always say this. He said, it's a Jerry Rice quote. I'm willing to do things now that other people won't, so that later on in life, I can do what other people can't. Right? So I'm willing to do things in life right now that other people will not do, so that later on in life, I can have the opportunities to do things that other people can't. Freedom to do what you want, when you want, with who you want. Discipline and structure create freedom in your life in the future. But discipline and structure also create freedom in the moment. Most people don't take action because they're not sure the correct action to take. So they sit around and they overthink it and they don't take any action. The people who schedule and plan their day, that schedule and plan their actions, now have freedom to take in that action how they see fit, right? So like, I know that with this podcast, I have some bullet points. I have a couple notes that I have to hit in this podcast, but I have free reign to just do whatever I want to in this and say whatever pops up for me in the moment. That's usually how it works for me. Same thing where if I know I have to run a meeting for my team, I'm running a meeting for my team, I have some structure to it, but I also have freedom in that structure. And by telling myself I'm going to show up and do that meeting at 10 a.m., will create, if I can have the structure and the discipline to do it and to plan it and to create it and to make sure I hold people accountable at the end of it, it will create more freedom down the road as well. So discipline and structure create freedom now in the moment when you're doing it, but it also creates freedom later on. Let me explain a little bit more deeper. If you wake up and you have no schedule, sure, there's some freedom in that. If you wake up and you have no work, nothing that you have to do, there's freedom in it. But if I'm being honest with you, you know that waking up and doing nothing, not moving your life forward, not making the money that you want to, building the business, following your passion, will eventually create less freedom and less options later on in life, right? Like I know people who I've known since high school that didn't have any freedom or they didn't have any discipline or structure all throughout college, anything. And now they're working jobs that they hate because they have to. They feel like they have to. They feel they don't have any other options. And so when you wake up and you decide, I'm going to be disciplined and structured right now, you realize that it's going to create more freedom for you in the future. So when you have freedom, when you have structure, when you have discipline, there's freedom that you can do what you want in that structure and that discipline. I know my schedule today, but I'm free to do what I want in that schedule. Right? So if you're like, I'm going to go to the gym from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., right? You can have a plan, but there's also some freedom in doing what it is that you want. Oh, you're going to do 10 reps, do 12. People underestimate what locking down and working on yourself in your business or your mindset or your relationship, whatever it might be, and locking down and disappearing for a year can do for your future. If you're young, if you're under 35 years old, disappear for a complete year. Like just go off the map. Right? Just completely disappear. If you don't have a family, if you don't have a relationship that you're in, just disappear, man. Like just tell all your friends, I'll see you once a month, whatever it is, but I'm off the radar. I'm working on me. I'm working on myself. I'm working on my future. I'm working on being more disciplined and structured so that I can have ultimate freedom later on in life. Now, some of you guys have a family. You can still disappear with a family. I'm not saying disappear from your family, Okay. I know some of you guys are like, I wish I could disappear. My kids are crazy, right? I'm not saying disappear from your family. I'm saying find one thing that you want to do, like a business or a skill, whatever it is, and dedicate yourself to it. If you have a family, disappear from everybody but them. Don't leave your kids alone to provide for themselves, but disappear from everything else. If you have a wife and 2 kids, put every ounce of energy into them. And then when you're not around them, when they're at school, when they're at work, put every ounce of energy into growing yourself. It will create more freedom for you and for them later on in life. What if your kid does decide that they want to be a scientist and they get into MIT or something like that, Harvard, and you can't pay for it? There's no freedom in that. Now, we're restricted. I'm sorry, you can't go to that school. You can't do that thing. Oh, it'd be really nice for us to go on a family trip. So instead of looking at pictures of the Colosseum, we could go and actually look at it, go to Rome and see it in person, but we don't have the money to do so, right? And I understand, and I say this all the time because so many people are like, but I have kids, I have a mortgage, I have a wife, I have all this stuff. I understand where you're at. It doesn't mean that you can't make a transition plan. It doesn't mean that you can't say, in 2 years, by this date, I will be making the exact same amount of money in my side business as I am my current work, the company that I work for, and I will transition out of it, right? Dedicate your non-work, your non-family hours to creating something, to mastering a skill. Look for mentors. Find other people that can help you. Find something to master in your life. Find something to dedicate your life to. You have your family. Dedicate your life to them, of course. But find something to master in your life. Find something that you could fall in love with, that you could be obsessed with. Been reading this book recently on Leonardo da Vinci. And if you know about Leonardo da Vinci, he was an amazing artist. He could draw really well. He could paint. He could create sculptures. But he was also a guy who, he has the first drawings of someone who created a helicopter. He never brought it to life because they didn't have the technology back then. But he actually made something like that. He would go in and he would buy birds and he would look at their wings so that he could make the perfect drawing of what angels will look like. And what you look at as somebody who has just mastered themselves. They've mastered themselves. They've mastered a craft and they fell in love with it. Now, for me, I'm a shit painter, so I'm not going to try to paint. But for me, I love figuring people out. I love creating this podcast. I found my little pocket of the world and I'm freaking obsessed with it. And I love it with every ounce of energy, and it actually gives me more energy to do this. There's something out there for you that you could dedicate your life to, that you could absolutely love. And you could try to become more creative and see what it is. Dedicate yourself to it. If you don't have a family and you're single, disappear. If you don't have a family and you're single, disappear. If you have a family and you're not single, disappear from everybody but them and work on yourself, work on your craft, create a transition plan, and you'll realize that leaving the 9-to-5, getting out of the rat race is easier than you thought it would be. You've just been building it up in your mind to think that it's worse than you thought. So, go out and do it. That's what I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, please share it on your Instagram stories and tag me in it. Right now, take a screenshot, take a picture or a video of you listening to it, walking around at the gym, wherever you are, and share it on your Instagram stories and tag me in it, Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. I always love seeing where you guys are and what you're doing. And a lot of times I respond to you guys, say thanks for listening, all that type of stuff. And so if you would do that, I greatly appreciate it. And you know what? I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission to make somebody else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day.